Hi, I'm Alex Caravello from LandlordsRent. I'm a property investor, property management consultant, professional landlord, and chairman of my local Landlords Association branch. I've been a landlord for over 15 years. In that time, I've experienced most, if not all, the problems commonly experienced by property investors. And I'll tell you now, the biggest problem I face in that time is late or unpaid rent. Have you also experienced problems with late rent payments? If so, you will know, as I do, that maintaining good cash flow is a fundamental aspect of any business, property investment in particular. Up until 2 years ago, I was losing up to £5,000 a year in unpaid rent, every year. Now, it's virtually zero. I want to tell you how I managed to do that. You might ask, what was I doing so wrong to suffer that level of rent arrears? But the answer is, nothing. I was losing that money because I had no real control over collecting my rents from my tenants. I was doing what everyone else does. I was relying on my tenants to set up standing orders to pay their rent. I was relying on my tenants to make sure they had enough money in their bank accounts on rent payday. I was relying on my tenants not to cancel their standing order because funds were running a bit tight that month. I was relying on my tenants' banks not to accidentally cancel the standing order for my rent. Basically, like every other landlord in the country, I was relying on other people and other organisations to make sure I got paid my rent. And it's not even that I had bad or dishonest tenants. On the whole, my tenants wanted to pay their rent on time. It's just that the day the rent was due never seemed to coincide with their own payday or with the frequency of their housing benefit payments. Maybe they had an unexpectedly high bill that month that reduced their bank balance below the rent amount, causing the standing order to fail. During 2009, as the credit crunch really started to bite, I found that more and more of my tenants were struggling to make ends meet at the end of the month. It's not they didn't have any money to pay their rent. They were just struggling with financial management, maybe as a result of a drop in household income. They needed help to make sure their most important bills were getting paid, in full and on time. And as far as I'm concerned, the most important monthly bill is their rent. As we all know, if they're not caught early enough, these sorts of payment difficulties become irrecoverable bad debts. I realised that I needed to take control of my own rent collection, rather than leaving it down to my tenants and their banks. What I really needed was a way to reach into my tenants' bank accounts and take out my rent money before it got spent on other household bills. I needed a way to know before it happened if my tenant's next rent payment would fail, giving me time to sort out a payment problem before it became a bad debt. And then it dawned on me. What I was describing was a direct debit collection facility. The penny had finally dropped. Why do all major UK businesses want you to pay your bills by direct debit? It's not for your benefit, it's for theirs. They want control over collection of their money. So the very next day I started looking for a small business direct debit facility to collect my rents. I went out to the market to find the organisation that could provide me with this service. And do you know what I found? You guessed it, it didn't exist. No one wanted to deal with individual landlords, not the banks or building societies, not the specialist financial services providers, no one. So what did I do? Did I give up? Did I continue to stumble along, accepting that late or unpaid rent was a private landlord's lot? No, I didn't. I established LandlordsRent direct debit rent collection service. It allows me to collect my rent when I want to. It allows me to set the collection frequency to fortnightly, monthly, 3 monthly, 6 monthly or annually. It allows me to take one-off payments for things like tenancy application fees, security deposits, or contractual penalties. It allows me to automatically set up annual rent increases at the start of each new tenancy, without having to worry about remembering to do it a year later. It allows me to automatically collect tenancy renewal fees every 6 months. It's a true set-and-forget money collection system. But better than that, it tells me the same day if a rent collection has failed, or if a tenant cancels their direct debit, or if their bank puts a stop on the payment. This is so important because, as all serious property investors know, the sooner you act, the better the chance of you getting your money. You don't want to be at the end of a long queue of people owed money. You want to be at the front of the queue. Hopefully now you can see the tremendous benefits of using direct debit to collect your rents. You might think this service would be expensive, but you'd be wrong. The LandlordsRent direct debit rent collection service costs just 0.5% of the rent collected. Just 0.5% for all those benefits. It's a true no-brainer. That's why all serious landlords, property investors and letting agents are turning to LandlordsRent to take control of their rent collection. Remember what I told you at the beginning of this video? Up until 2 years ago, I was losing up to £5,000 a year in unpaid rent, every year. Now, it's virtually zero. All thanks to LandlordsRent. To your continued success.